The Dees suffered their biggest loss under Simon Goodwin, with Freo in the nation's centre absolutely handing their ass to them. Paddy Cripps strapped the Blues to his back for an emphatic win, while injuries are beginning to wear Collingwood's flag hopes thin. Suspensions rule out the odds-on favourites out of the Rising Star. And if there's Mark of the Year in Div 12 Rezzies, hand Daisy Thomas the car to dissect round 12 and cast our eye towards round 13. This is Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub with the CEO and founder of Kickins.com, Lee Montagna.
Hello, Rabsy. Yeah, we're just getting to that stage of the year, aren't we? The bye rounds, the middle part of the year, winter's set in. It's just a few little feuds, few little fatigue and some tired boys setting in. But we'll try and push through, Damo, and put a bit of funk into the day.
The hanger-taking, snag-kicking and snag-eating Daisy Thomas.
Oh, my goodness. I tell you what the AFL needs to bring in. Not only water boys, but snag boys. It was brilliant. I got a sausage in bread with some sauce delivered to the goal square. No onions, no, thankfully. But no, that was good fun.
And a man with an empty conscience with no footy classified tonight, it's Damien Barrett.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's a nice feeling, actually, yeah. You can. Just on
State
your
of
point.
Origin tonight, by the way.
Yes, it is. So Nine will be taking that live. You can diarise the fights with each other during media in a calendar year. You can diarise it. And it is about now, the halfway point.
What was that word?
Diarise.
Just lock it in. Just lock it in.
Because you said, Dave, you started the year, everyone's in a good mood.
It's Triple M. You need to slow
this down a bit. Diarise and fight. Is that what you said?
I didn't think I said that.
Diarise the fights.
Oh, the media. Jesus, okay, that makes sense because I'm like, what in God's name is a diarised fight?
It'll be feisty.
Yeah,
Basically,
okay.
Daisy, on the calendar, there's always a time of year when the media feuds and
Oh,
diaries.
you can put a fight in the diary. Jesus Christ, Damo. Slow down for me. And I tell you what, that does prove, Joey, your point.
Yeah, we're all getting a bit snappy with each other.
Diarise the fries.
You guys were snappy with each other on Sunday. Now, I come off the Sunday Footy show, get in the car and drive home and listen to your radio segment.
Not with us.
No.
And it was weird radio. And the weirdest thing was that you, Daisy, were the least weird.
Again, strange things happen this time of year.
Jay-Z went off a long run. Brownie was awkward. That's normal. But he was awkward against Stevie J. You were trying to sort of stoke it, but also play it down. And you were defending Kane Corns, of all people.
And Nathan Buckley.
You and Kane.
I got a sit-down interview with JC about Bucks, and then somehow in the middle of that, it turned to Kane, and I stuck up for Kane. So now Kane and I are mates, and it's just a weird time of the year.
Because a year ago when we did diarise that fight, you and Kane were going at it.
We were head-to-head, yeah. I got called a part-timer and
Yes.
unprofessional. Paraphrasing here, of course, not diarising more fights. No, but it was weird. But I tell you what, a big round of applause to everybody here at the Midweek Rub again with the numbers that we're doing. Obviously, the surveys have gone out. Triple M dominant across the board. So well done to everyone here, but well done to the listeners as well.
Yeah, podcasts aren't part of that survey ratings, but we'll take it anyway.
Look, I'll just make it up as we go, Rabsy, and we're flying.
We're getting a lot of podcast listeners
Mate,
and YouTube
absolutely.
viewers
Oh,
and
yeah.
all that. People love it. So we're going to keep the vibes positive every
Well, your
time.
other podcast is making news too. You and Rui just attacking Collingwood people and
Footy
Rui.
Talk podcast going after the Saints or going after the Rat Pack seems to drive
Well,
some
you went
drive some
after the Rat
clicks.
Pack, as we heard.
Again, you stoked Rui up in that.
I wound him up.
He's gone again, though, Rui.
Not on the Rat Pack.
No, on Bucks being the coach.
yeah.
What is he trying to get an assistant coaching role? What's the agenda?
Nah, there is no agenda. I just
tell the truth.
ask questions to him and he fires back. But Bucks is now, see, on Monday night, he didn't rule it out. He said he will be interested. So I think there is some, our man Jay Clark was all over it. I think there is something just firing away underneath. The Bucks will be front and square when this Tassie team, they start to appoint some roles.
Damo, have you heard anything?
Only what I'm reading publicly. Yeah,
Okay.
and I did notice how he answered that question, knowing it was coming, and just avoided it.
Did you just ask the right man for the role? You want to ask? Don't want to start again.
Oh,
ask
what, you want me
Daisy.
to, another endorsement? You're trying to back me into a corner again.
I'll ask you.
Look, I don't know. I mean, he's as good as anyone out there. I mean, you start at the top. I'd start with someone like Chris Scott and go work my way down the list. But, Bucks is in that mix. He's been pretty successful.
Do you want me to quote Dane Swan to you?
Well, I can play it if you want.
exactly
What
right.
the would you know about
Oh, no.
That's right, but if I endorse Ross Lyon, I'll get shot down. He's the only coach that I
So you
can
think
really...
Ross should go to Tassie? Jesus, he's still got a role to play at St Kilda.
Scott Waters as well, he coached.
Yeah, that's it, Alan Richardson, Grant Thomas.
Richo could take the pizzas down and he's still...
I've had 4.
Oh,
dear.
All right.
What about you? Have you got your take on Nathan Buckley?
I don't think it should be. I know it's not. I know it's not considered a lock, but I worry about what has to happen in the 2 years before the club comes in, and I don't know whether that's going to be what Bucks wants to do as part of the formulation of the.
Feels like there'll be some joints. You know, you'll have some new younger burger assistant coach / whatever
Doing
you
the
want to
hard
call it.
yards, you reckon?
Doing the coaching the VFL and some of that stuff, and have a big figurehead. But I don't know, plenty to play out. Daisy's getting sick of the chat about Tassie.
I got bored.
Well, you won't be bored on Sunday night. Carlton versus Essendon. That is a huge game that's going to lead Damo's news, which is coming up next on Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub, all thanks to BWS. Fair Dinkum or Fugazi still to come. Plus, your game predictions for round 13. And one of those games, Damo, Sunday night, Essendon versus Carlton at the MCG.
We in the media can be accused, and sometimes rightly so, of beating things up. But there is no beat up to Sunday night. Bombers v Blues. There's going to be 90,000 plus there. You've got the second team versus the fifth team. They are both juggernauts who have been underperforming for the best part of 20 years. They are two of the big four traditionally, Collingwood and Richmond being the other members of that traditional VFL/AFL Big Four. Game on. Now, that's right up to the start of the ball being bounced. What happens then? Let's see what happens. But the anticipation around it, guys, it is got a late 90s, early 2000s feel to it. And we know what happened in the 99 prelim as part of that conversation.
Well, let's be honest. When Carlton and Essendon are up and about, the footy's better. The
Footy is
crowds get
better,
right
yep.
into it. The grandstand shake. I mean, I love seeing the Essendon and Blues fans going nuts. So I can't wait. I mean, as a neutral, it's going to be fun. We're doing the game for Triple M. Daisy will be there. Oh, look, it's awesome. And two teams that are going to play finals. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Not sure which way the game will go. I've probably got more faith in the Blues. We'll get to that later. But, yeah, the anticipation, the build-up, one of the biggest home and away games that we've seen in a long time.
It might be the biggest home and away ever, crowd, but if they get it to the high 90s, yeah.
Which they should.
And they will, 100%. I've got no doubt about that. The Blues fans rock up regardless. The Bombers, they're going nicely, as we touched on there, in just second on the ladder. But also, the Mackay brothers, for the first time ever, surely he goes straight to him. I said this the other day. It should be adjudicated by the parents. If they get in any sort of scrap or rough and tumble, don't worry about sending it to the AFL tribunal. Send it to Mum, Mrs. Mackay, and say, what's the punishment?
Well, she's got her own profile beautifully as well, doesn't she?
She's flying,
She's bigger than Harry and Ben when it comes to media at the moment, Tanya. So is it a lock, though, that he does go to him, Ben to Harry? Or because you've got another key forward down there that may need some attention.
This might be a
Charlie.
slightly simplistic view, but if you want to go like for like, they're twins.
Seems to work.
Genetically.
You're the footy nut. Do we lock it in?
I think so, because otherwise it's Jaden Laverde. He's the second tall. Is he can take Charlie or Harry? I think it's normally most teams hand over as well. They will be on each other for big parts of the game, which will be fun. 9 years it's been since they've actually played on each other since they've been in the system. It's remarkable.
And then you've got Walsh and Cripps against Merritt and Durham and Co. And then you've got the element of the coaches being former premiership teammates for Brisbane Lions. And I know that they've coached against each other 7 times before at other clubs as well. But there's something about this particular matchup that I think will bring the best out of both of them too, because as Simon Black said during the week on AFL.com.au, that they have now both got their teams playing the way they play themselves. And he used that as a reflection on how well they are now able to instill in their teams what they want to be about. Because it didn't necessarily work that way for them across the board the first times they had as coaches. Vossi at Brisbane and Brad Scott at North Melbourne.
Even Essendon too, as far as a couple of months ago, after they came out and said they're going to be playing with that Essendon edge, and then we didn't see it for a week or two. They've been very, very good to watch in that same manner you talk of. Hard, tough, but then with a little bit of pizzazz on the outside.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. Sunday night, 7:20. Now, long-term contracts, we know they're not a new thing, but we had 2 more names and 3 if you want to add Will Hayward to it as well. But Sam Taylor and Hugh McCluggage, both signing long-term deals. Taylor's deal was effectively an 8-year deal because he already had next year locked away. They added 7 to it. Rosie, Norton, Oliver, Petrarca. There's now dozens of names in this zone of 6+ year contract extensions. And we've seen in Norton's case even 9. Why are we doing this, Joey? I mean, I'm sorry, I know why. Can you explain to our listeners why, through your lens, as a person who dabbles in this recruitment space or this talent space, is happening this way?
Yeah, for me, it's a win-win. So the players that we've spoken about for a long time that deserve to get big money, that probably have got unders, I reckon. We've always spoken about the top-end talent generally don't get as much as they should. We try and even up the salary cap. They get their long-term security. And for clubs, it's a win. I mean, if you've got to remember when you get a long-term contract, then if the player does decide they want to leave at some stage, well, they're in contract, so you get more for trade. You can shuffle money around with players that are long-term. You can back-end it, you can front-end it, you can ask them to move money to bring other players into the club. It actually gives list managers and teams flexibility to be able to do more with the list and bring more in. So I don't see any downside. I hear a lot, and I know you'll touch on it, there's risk. I haven't seen too much risk with these long-term deals. Where is the risk?
Well, is there risk then? Clayton Oliver is having effectively the first year of his extension this year. And the Oliver that we're seeing in 2024 is not the Oliver they signed to 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, he's not having as great a year as he's played. That's true. Yeah.
So there's one risk, and the unknown about that, and even the fact that they were engaging in conversations about him in the most recent offseason.
So do you think there should be some sort of limit? In terms of then, so the free agency that the AFL's spoken about, so that there's more action in that space?
I don't know how you could legislate a limit on it, but what it does do is counter what the AFL wanted with free agency, the player movement system. Yep. So it does contradict that. It is part of that conversation, and I always say, and I may be a little bit too extreme in saying this, but clubs are conservative by nature, I reckon, by AFL standards. And to your use of the word control, they do have control now over that deal. And I feel it's an element of that. They just want control over everything. And I think that is stifling when it comes to player movement.
For the AFL, they probably wouldn't like it because they'd love more. They'd love players to have less length contracts for more movement. More movement's the exciting, what we probably want to see as an industry, but for clubs and for players, that they want the security and having the players at their team.
The 3 players you talked about that have signed were already talking points throughout the year.
That's right.
So where the speculation as to where Taylor was going to go, where Hayward was going to go, the money McCluggage was going to get, that's all stopped now.
It does. Hey, just one of those players we mentioned, Oliver playing for Melbourne. What is happening there? Lost to West Coast 3 weeks ago, beat St Kilda in between what happened on the weekend, which was disastrous against Fremantle.
Yeah, we did the game. It was horrible. They just didn't fire a shot after the first 5 minutes. That first 5 minutes, Freo couldn't touch the ball, and then from there, I'm well and truly happy to give them a complete do-over. I don't mind this, and sometimes a loss like that can actually be decent enough for a football side, because if you are getting away with a game against West Coast, you go, we weren't so great, we fall in against the Saints, you can cover up a few cracks and gaps in what's happening. When you get exposed like that and it is stark, our defensive isn't good enough, our midfield wasn't good enough, we got smacked in centre clearance, it becomes really clear as to what you need to get better at as a football club. No doubt those conversations would be had throughout the week just gone, because it was as bad a performance as we've seen from the Dees to probably going back 5 to 10 years.
Are you as forgiving?
I am as well. I think, though, what it'll do is it'll narrow their focus. What is their DNA? What is their identity? Because they've lost that. They've played differently to how they have. Now, there have been reasons. They've tried to evolve their game, and I give them credit for that. You need to continue to evolve and try and find ways to get better. But in doing so, they've lost their actual strengths and what they do well. So I'm with Daisy. I can see the positive out of this, and they can narrow their focus. They can look each other in the eye, say, right, what do we stand for? How do we want to play? This is one of the most professional teams in the comp over the last 4 years, with their contest, their effort, their consistency, their leadership on field. I think they've got the best leaders in the comp. So I think they'll bounce back. Don't forget, 2017, Damo, was about round 16, a St Kilda side that had a couple of wily old veterans and a lot of youngsters beat this Richmond team. We were led by 89 points at three-quarter time on a Saturday night at Marvel against Richmond in 2017. We flogged them. It was unbelievable. And they went on to win the next 10 games and win the flag, and we won 3 of our next 10 and missed the final. So teams can get flogged and still recover. Not saying Melbourne will go on to win the flag, but I've got no doubt they'll bounce back and be much better.
Yeah, certainly on notice for this week. But one thing we have learned throughout this season especially, even with Geelong, you sort of take them on trust, they'll bounce back. Their month of footy previous to what they did on the weekend, which still wasn't overly impressive. If you're out of form, you're just simply out of form. And it just doesn't mean you bounce back like it once did. in saying that, I think we're all hoping that Melbourne is the outlier.
Yep. We've all had our opinions on should there be a fairest component to various awards, but let's move this conversation on from a rising star perspective to who wins it now that Harley Reid and Sam Darcy can't.
No, I think it's wide open now. I think it comes down to the last 12 weeks of football.
I think it's a
It
fresh
really
start.
does. I mean, you can say Caleb Windsor and Darcy Wilson have probably been the two most consistent, best performed. I still like Georgie Wardlaw, but he's been up and down. I just love the way that he plays, an impact rather than performance. But I think it's wide open. I think whoever plays the best the last 10 weeks of the year will win it.
Can I put to you someone who's played VFL, Rolly Sanders, who has played VFL and has been subbed in and out of a game already, but he's good has been good, and he's got a runway of 10 matches, 11 matches remaining.
Don't forget Sam Closey either, the kid at the Gold Coast Suns. Ollie Dempsey as well. Like there's a lot of options now.
Yeah, and that becomes the intrigue as to it is wide open and up for grabs. So whoever's good enough, I still think it's absolute horseshit that you get suspended for that and you lose the opportunity, but that's the rules, and apparently they're not changing.
That 2017 game you're talking about, Joey had 31 disposals, 2 goals. Richmond kicked 11 behind, so there's 11 disposals of his 31. Coming up next, it's Van Dinkum or Fugazi on Superland Footy's Midweek Rub, all thanks to BWS.
Now on the Midweek Rub, it's Fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a...
Joey, Melbourne are seriously missing Angus Brayshaw.
I was wondering if you're going to ask me that one. I saw that. It's Fugazi. The issues are deeper than just Angus Brayshaw. We know he's a great player, but there's a lot more going on there.
I would have answered that one differently.
Yeah, I would have
also.
also.
Fair dinkum. They are just missing Angus. Angus is the problem.
Absolutely they are.
One of your better
midfielders. A Brownlow
midfielders.
medal, and it was so important to them morale-wise and leadership-wise and selflessness-wise. Yeah, they're missing him big time.
And
Fair
could
dinkum.
play in multiple positions as well.
Selflessly.
I changed my answer. Fair dinkum.
Good boy.
Daisy, Ben King is being slept on, 3 goals a game and a joint Coleman leader.
Yeah, that's fair dinkum. I think we going about and looking at how good Charlie Curnow's going, the other bigger names, but he is putting together a really nice season. And for the Gold Coast Suns to continue to improve and maybe get into a finals, he's going to have a big back half of the season. But when your big key is kicking goals, it's good for your club, it's good for footy, and it's no surprise as to why the Gold Coast Suns are going well.
Is it because he plays a little bit differently to Charlie Curnow? He doesn't play as athletic and crashing packs as much?
Well, yeah, I think so. To be fair, I don't think he has as much impact on a game. He just kicks 3 goals and just does that consistently, and you're up there in the Coleman ladder leaderboard. I reckon this Coleman will be decided by... We haven't had a massive game yet, have we? Where one player kicks 7, 8, 9 and sort of separates themselves, and that's going to be the difference. And you feel like Charlie Curnow's probably got that in him, but Ben King, as you said, if they keep winning, he'll keep kicking goals.
Damo, the loser of Collingwood versus Melbourne will miss the top 8.
Fugazi, Rabsy, last year taught us that you cannot make assessments of that nature at this stage of the season because Carlton and GWS were afterthoughts at this point. So, Fugazi.
I'll stick with you, Damo. Harley Reid's suspension opens the door for North to finally have a win.
Yes.
Fugazi.
I hate North so much.
That club,
This is the grand final.
you're right, it is. And it's another game of footy they'll lose.
Oh, no.
Genuine naysayer.
Well, I've got reason to be, Daisy.
I understand, but
witnessing
just
what's happening
a
here.
little bit of hope. The most dangerous word in
The
football.
day I see a little bit of hope, I might be more buoyant about what they may do on a weekend. But I haven't seen
We're
anything.
off the bye. Harley Reid's not playing.
Yeah.
And all the questions said it opens the door. It didn't say they were morals.
I just said it's Fugazi.
The door's locked. You
God.
padlocked it.
Daisy, Carlton are the current number 2 seed behind Sydney.
Oh, Fugazi. I will wait until later in the year.
You've got to say who
Okay.
is then if you don't want to say that.
It's a
come on.
good question. GWS Giants are still the number 2 seed for mine. I think they're what they did, especially early on this season. I'd have them as the 2nd seed. So Fugazi on Carlton.
We spoke to him on Sunday, Joey. Dylan Moore would be All-Australian small forward if the team was picked today.
Oh, it's a good one. It's recency bias, though. I'm going for Fugazi. He was brilliant to kick the 5 and have 27. But Brian Myers has been the best small forward still. Isaac Rankin, if he comes back, has also been excellent. He's definitely in the squad, though, and in contention.
Sticking with the Hawks, Damo, Hawthorn can emulate GWS's 2023 finals run from low on the ladder.
I'm going to go fair dinkum because I like what they've done in the last 7 weeks, and arguably their best performance of that 7 weeks was the game they lost to Port Adelaide after leading by 41 points. I say that because Port's still a quality team. 8 wins, 4 losses, Port Adelaide to this point of this season, and what they've been able to do since Will Day has got back and fit again, it's been quite extraordinary. So, yeah, I wouldn't be ruling that out.
What about West Coast and the Hawks? So at the start of the season, we had them clumped with North Melbourne down the bottom of the ladder, and after 3 weeks, you thought, right, these are going to be the three sides.
Well, 5 weeks in Hawthorn's case.
Yeah.
0-5
and
start.
the turnaround has been unbelievable.
Yeah.
Genuinely unbelievable.
Although West Coast are showing signs again of
Yeah.
dropping off.
Daisy, Marcus Bontempelli versus Nick Dacos was the best midfield battle we've seen since the famous Nat Fyfe Patrick Dangerfield game in 2015.
Without
That famous one.
Yeah, I can't remember it.
come on, really
I'll go fair dinkum. That was 2 of the better midfield games you'll see. I still get so confused as to why you don't go with a tag on one of them, especially in the last quarter. The only way Collingwood were losing that match is if Bont picked the side up, put him on his back, went and had clearances after clearance, contested ball, and hit the scoreboard. You know what happens? He did that and they lose with 10 coaches in the coaches box and no plan B in a critical time. What is going on?
I agree. Every team's got bottom 6 players that, to be fair, are role players that don't do a lot. Why don't you sacrifice one of them and say, try your hardest to stop one of the great players of the modern era?
Yeah.
With either of them, Dacos or Bontempelli. I don't know why teams don't do it more. You're right.
Well, speaking of taggers, Damo, Harley Reid can expect a tagger to stand next to him every stoppage for the rest of his career.
Fair dinkum. Yeah, the job that Windhager did on the weekend is confirmation of what you've just suggested there, and the fact that Ross Lyons said it, declared it at halftime, and then identified Windhager publicly before it unfolded, and then it happened so effectively and successfully, yes.
Joey, Sam Mitchell's deep list cuts have already been justified.
You have to say Fugazi because you said they're a 20-year rebuild.
We had that chat. We had that chat about the rebuilds take longer than people think. They've still got a long way to go in their rebuild. So the deep list cuts were who? Mitchell, O'Meara. Yeah, that's been justified. They're better off without them, absolutely.
Daisy Thomas. Hopefully Michael Voss's opposition analysis is normally more sophisticated than this.
Mike had a question for you, Ben.
Hi guys, it's Michael here from Carlton North. I just have a quick question for Ben though, and I love the tactical side of the game. So I was wondering if you'd be able to tell me the Bombers' exact game plan against the Blues. I presume you've watched a fair bit of us over the most recent of time, having followed obviously Harry. If you could take us through it all step by step, that would be absolutely amazing. I think everyone would find that really interesting, especially me. So
that's Michael Voss on the Ben and Harry podcast.
There's a bit of humour. Oh, boy. That's good. That's good stuff.
Pretty good.
What was the question?
Yeah. Something about analysis. Look, I won't clip. I'll say well done to Vossi. I'm not sure if it's Fenningham or Fugazi, but well done for leaning into just a little bit of a piss take.
100%. And finally, Damo, the pressure has not been on anyone as much for a big freeze performance than JB this Monday.
Yeah, he's got. He's doing this not just for himself, but the entire Triple M brand. And I know he's a little bit nervous, as you do too.
Yes.
Yeah, he's not. And being nervous is not something I've ever associated him with. So pressure's on. Fair dinkum.
Will he get caught up and do the big performance like Rui? Has he got that in him? Because he does have the swag.
He's
got
got
that in him.
Yeah,
But will he let it go?
Don't know. He's been a bit.
Well, it's Channel 7, Jim.
Yeah.
But he needs
It's
to bring
not
out the
Triple
footy.
M,
He
Jim.
needs to bring out the footy show, Jim, though.
The Triple M gym.
Yes. Interesting.
We'll find out on Monday, and we'll get your tips for that game coming up next on Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Joey, Daisy and Damo. Extra long weekend, so make sure you head into BWS before the games kick off tomorrow night. Adelaide versus Richmond. Joey Montagna.
Surely Adelaide win this at home, don't they? They've got to bounce back. They were horrible last week. No Dusty for Richmond. They'll be competitive, the Tigers, as we've seen most of the year. But Adelaide, surely.
Shame Dusty was sick for the game, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's unfortunate.
Just unfortunate. He just misses this one and comes back to an MCG for 300. We buying that, by the way?
No, we know he's not, but that's okay. He's
Why do
allowed.
you say it, though? Just say
He
what
may
you're
be
doing.
sick. Everyone's sick. You're a bit crook at the
Yeah,
minute.
exactly right.
Just say what you're doing.
Yeah.
We're resting him for 300.
When has
sick
honesty
of
been
getting
the best
beat.
policy
No,
in the
that's-
AFL, though? We come up with lies. I think Adelaide get this done comprehensively.
Damo?
Yeah, Adelaide, but I've got no confidence in them after what they dished up last week. So just, yes, Adelaide, but I'm disappointed in them.
Comprehensively, 40 plus.
Okay. Western Bulldogs versus Brisbane Daisy Thomas.
Well, again, a nice opportunity for the Western Bulldogs to build some trust from what we think. However, I don't think it's happening. Fresh off the bye, that was a really hard game what they played last week, the Western Bulldogs against the Pies. Brisbane, hopefully some soul-searching's been done and they've been able to rectify a few things. So in saying that, I'm going to tip them, and they are an outsider as well.
Brave tip.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going for the Western Bulldogs. I wasn't brave enough when I quickly thought who I needed to tip in this game to follow your lead on this, because I think it is a danger game too. But I'm going to stick with what the exposed form suggests to me, and that is Bulldogs.
No Norton, no Darcy. I think Dunkley tries to quell Bontempelli, and I'm with Daisy. I think if there is a team from this bottom half that's still got one run in them, it could be Brisbane Lions. Their profile is actually okay for where they are on the ladder. Maybe the bye might do them the world of good. They might get on a little mini run back after the season.
I might reassess this
Yeah.
in another tipping panel I'm in.
I'm thinking the Carlton sort of GWS model from last year is the Lions.
Could be.
Hawthorn versus the Giants down in Launceston, Damo.
GWS after getting back last week, and I love what Hawthorn is doing, but I've just got to go back to what I felt at the start of the year, GWS, and you just ranked them the number 2 seed still, the Giants, so Giants in a close one.
Yeah, they're my number 2 seed as well. I haven't jumped off the Giants yet. I think, like last year, they'll find their best footy back into the year, and it'll start on Saturday with a win.
Agree to all points made.
West Coast versus North Melbourne. Damo's given them no chance. What about you, Joey?
I'm tipping them, Joey.
No,
I'll
I
take it.
can't.
You got to get on board.
I know, I want
Theatre.
to, but West Coast at home, West Coast at home are actually hard to beat.
Yeah.
So even without Harley Reid, I think if Waterman plays, we don't know at this
Well,
stage.
Saints got him last week.
Yeah, but the Saints are flying. I'll go West Coast, but I would love to see North win. They are in with a shot.
Come on, Damo.
No, well, you know my answer.
So I think North will win.
Why?
And confidently too.
Why?
Fresh off the bye.
Oh.
You can get yourself up. If you bring pressure and effort like we've seen with a Richmond, that brings you a chance to be competitive. They've got some good players around the forwards. Good enough. They've got one key in particular in a Nick Larkey who could kick a bag.
Not even a good year, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's all right. This could change. He'll get an opportunity to kick a bag, and if he does, North Melbourne win.
Went against the rejuvenated McGovern and Brass.
St Kilda got on the wins last week. Can they do it again?
They did get on the wins, Rabsy. I was the only one that tipped them last week. No one else had any faith. I had faith in Rossi. Found a way to win.
To beat West Coast.
Yes, you both tipped West Coast.
You did.
I'm sticking with St Kilda again until Gold Coast win away from home. The Saints will find a way.
I want to go down that path as well. I'm still dubious about Gold Coast, and I keep getting told they're good, but I keep seeing them lose away from home matches.
They
So
don't get a better
Saints-
opportunity to win away,
That's the
though.
one
So
here. That's
I'm
right.
on the Gold
That's
Coast
right.
bandwagon.
The last 3 games of this round are huge. Sydney versus Geelong, Damo.
Again, I still rate Geelong. I know they've lost 4 in a row, 1 last week, but 3 of those were by 8 points or less. But I just cannot tip against Sydney at the moment, coming off a bye.
You hear?
I concur.
We've spoken about this game already, but finally we get your tips. Essendon versus Carlton at the MCG.
I think Carlton. I'm almost confident Carlton. I know Essendon are second on the ladder. Their midfield the last 3 or 4 weeks, Essendon has just dropped away ever so slightly, which leaves them a little bit vulnerable. Their defenders have been awesome. So Ridley back and Redmond's found his best and Mackay, Redmond not playing. Carlton, though, I like them. I like the way they're going about it. I think they'll be too tough around the ball and they'll beat the Bombers.
Same.
Yep, I agree. I cannot wait for it. I think Carlton, if they do win this game and do it in a nice fashion, they could be certainly taken seriously to be that number 2 seed.
Yep.
And finally, King's birthday, Collingwood versus Melbourne, Daisy Thomas.
Another absolute belter, as we touched on, forgive and forget for Melbourne last start. I'm happy to look past them. The Pies are beaten up. There's no doubting that. I think it'll be a good game, but I am going to tip Melbourne.
I'm just drawing on what I think Max Gawn will be doing this week and just re-establishing this club's need to respond, and will do so against Collingwood.
We're all on the same page, aren't we? Depth will be tested for Collingwood. Melbourne, I just think their leaders will stand up. They'll bounce back, they'll find a way, and they'll win this game.
Darcy Cameron's probably had his best year so far as well, so that matchup against Max Gawn's going to be huge. Can we get your certainty and a surprise for the round 13, please?
My surprise will be Brisbane. I think they will win against the Bulldogs at Marvel. And my certainty, I'm going to go with Carlton.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Carlton as my certainty as well, and I'm going to go. I'm going to change my tips in the other tips I do with Brisbane as the outsider.
I'm going to hopefully be right with Adelaide. I've got confidence around them, and as an outsider, Hawthorn.
Well, you can catch every game live on Triple M and the Listener app, starting with Adelaide versus Richmond tomorrow night, following the final Thursday rub for the season. Jack Everin, Jay Clark, Isaac Smith and Kate McCarthy. This has been Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Joey, Daisy and Damo.